What defines a monster? Is it the green skin and the urge to destroy? Or is it the beautiful, bald woman standing next to him, who believes she knows what's best for you, even if it means stripping away your free will? Today, we're leaving Earth's atmosphere to explore the terrifying frequency where trauma meets absolute power. We're talking about Heather Douglas, the telepath who makes Professor X look like a guidance counselor and Doctor Strange look like a stage magician. She's been an Avenger, a Defender, and a Guardian of the Galaxy. But she's also been a villain who enslaved an entire planet to enforce peace. Strap in, because we're diving into the psyche of Moondragon. Welcome back to another episode of Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm Will, and today we're not going to just list the facts. We're going to track the ripples of this character across the entire Marvel universe. If you're here with us in the last episode where we talked about Beta Ray Bill, a monster with the soul so pure he could lift Thor's hammer, today we're flipping the script a little bit. We're looking at a character who looks like a pristine, perfect sci-fi goddess, but carries a literal dragon inside her soul. Now, I grew up as a military brat, moving from base to base. I know a thing about, rigid discipline and the need for control. But Heather Douglas took that to a level that frankly terrifies me. Her story starts with one of the most pivotal tragedies in Marvel history, not because of who died, but because of who survived. Picture the Mojave Desert. I lived there for several years. Early in the 1970s. I wasn't there in the 1970s. A regular dad, Arthur Douglas, is driving his wife, Yvette, and their little girl, Heather, down a lonely highway. Suddenly, a spaceship appears. It's Thanos. This is long before he was the Infinity Gauntlet guy snapping his fingers that we see in the movies. He was just a scout, but he didn't want witnesses. He blasts the car. Arthur and Yvette are killed instantly. Arthur, of course, would soon be resurrected as Drax the Destroyer, which we'll get to, but Heather, she was thrown clear. She was found by Mentor, Thanos' father. He took this frightened human child to Titan, a moon of Saturn inhabited by Internals. Now, think about that. Being a new kid on a military base is tough. Imagine being the only fragile mortal human in a society of immortal gods. Heather didn't just adapt. She overcompensated. She was raised by the monks of Shaolin. Think of it like a Jedi Order mixed with Bene Gesserit from Dune, but with way more kung fu. Because she lacked the Eternal's natural power, she used sheer, agonizing willpower to unlock her own psionic potential. She learned to control her biology, her adrenaline, everything. She didn't get bitten by a spider, she willed herself into becoming a weapon. During her final trial, she encountered a corrupting cosmic entity called the Dragon of the Moon. In a moment of supreme arrogance, which is basically her brand, she thought she killed it. In reality, she just locked it in the basement of her mind. She took the name Moondragon to celebrate a victory that was actually a ticking time bomb. When she returned to Earth in the 70s, she was a lot. She briefly used the name Madame McEvil. Yeah, it sounds kind of like a villain from a Saturday morning cartoon, but the Bronze Age was a wild time. She eventually joined the Avengers, but she wasn't there to make friends. She treated icons like Thor and Iron Man as unruly children. She famously clashed with Mantis during the Celestial Madonna saga, furious that the universe chose a former barmaid as its chosen one instead of her, the perfect Titanian princess. But the real echo of her trauma, the moment that defines her legacy, happened in the early 80s on a planet called Ba-Bani. Moondragon and her father, Drax, found this world locked in a brutal civil war. Heather looked at the chaos and decided, I can fix this. She didn't negotiate. She used her telepathy to mentally enslave the entire population. She forced them to be peaceful. She set herself up as a goddess. It's the ultimate security versus freedom debate. When the Avengers showed up to stop her, Drax, her own father, sided with the heroes. And in that ensuing fight, Moondragon had to stop him. She ripped the life force right out of her dad to maintain her control. As a father myself, that hit hard. It's the ultimate tragedy of her character. She built this fortress of a mind to protect that frightened little girl from the car crash, but the walls got so thick, she shut out her own humanity. This led her to a time with the Defenders, specifically the New Defenders. I line up with Beast, Angel, and Iceman. This is one of the best runs because it feels like a dysfunctional family drama. Odin stripped of her powers and made her wear a headband to limit her abilities, basically putting her in a cosmic timeout. But the Dragon of the Moon was still in her head, whispering to her, feeding on her frustration. It all culminated in Defenders number 152. The dragon broke loose. It took the sacrifice of her teammates, Valkyrie, Andromeda, Interloper, and Gargoyle, to stop it. They physically died to save Heather's soul. It's a heavy, resonant ending that proves that you can't repress your trauma. Eventually, you have to face it, or it eats you alive. So let's fast forward a bit and catch you up on the last decade of Heather's life, because if you thought her 80s story is complicated, her modern era is, well, a full-blown sci-fi odyssey. After spending years dead or sidelined, Moondragon came back during the Annihilation era with an edge. She wasn't a goddess anymore. She was a soldier. But the biggest shift wasn't in her powers. It was in her heart. She started a relationship with Phyla-Vell, the daughter of the original Captain Marvel. This isn't a footnote. They became one of the most significant power couples in Marvel's cosmic history. Phyla became the anchor Heather never had. When Ultron literally punched a hole through Heather's chest in Annihilation Conquest, Phyla dove into the afterlife to drag her back. It proved that for Moondragon, connection wasn't a weakness. It was the only thing stronger than her mind. Now, here's where it gets really, well, comic booky. So, for a few years recently, there was actually 2 Moondragons running around in the 616. During the Infinity Wars event, a version of Heather from an alternate reality crossed over. This alternate Heather was everything our Heather wanted to be. She never killed her father, she never succumbed to the dragon, and she was happily married to her version of Phyla. For our scarred 616 native Heather, it was a nightmare. She had to look at a living mirror of her own potential and realize just how broken she was. But in Al Ewing's brilliant 2020 Guardians of the Galaxy run, we got a resolution that I think is one of the best character beats in years. Instead of fighting, the 2 Heathers merged. They synthesized into a single being, combining the trauma with the idealism. It was a massive moment. She finally accepted her whole self, flaws and all. But this is Marvel, so the peace didn't last. Recently, Moondragon was front and center in the Grootfall event that ran from 2023 to early 2024. The Guardians fractured because Groot, well, he started terraforming planets, turning entire systems into a hive mind, Groot space. It was basically the Last of Us, but with trees. Moondragon and the team were actually consumed by Groot space, effectively dying and being reconstituted by his biomass. However, in the Guardians of the Galaxy annual that dropped in early 2024, we saw a resolution to this arc called Groot Rise. The team was resurrected, but it came at a devastating cost. Drax finally found his purpose. He didn't just punch something, he used his connection to the cosmic energies to ignite a dying star, sacrificing his physical form to save the system. So as we look at the 2025 landscape, Moondragon is currently active and more powerful than ever, but she is once again navigating the cosmos without her father. But this time, it's different. She didn't kill him, she sacrificed him as a hero. She's currently operating as one of the premier psychic heavyweights in the galaxy, still by Phyla-Vell's side. You might have seen her pop up in the most recent Phoenix solo series or Bloodhunt tie-ins, but for the first time in a long time, she's doing it with a sense of closure. She's no longer the girl running from a car crash, she's the woman who survived it. So it's been a wild ride, hasn't it? From Madame McEvil to the Guardians of the Galaxy. But looking at her history, I want to leave you with this thought. Moondragon defined her entire life by her mental superiority, convinced that her intellect made her better than the messy, emotional humans she protected. But every time she failed, on Ba-Bani, with the Defenders, it was because of that arrogance. Every time she succeeded, it was because her connections to Drax or Phyla-Vell. So my question to you is this. Do you think Moondragon's trauma is fully healed by the merger with her perfect self, or is the Dragon of the Moon just waiting for her to get arrogant again? Because in the Marvel Universe, the shadow of self never sleeps for long. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks as always for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive and gave you a new appreciation for the bald, bad attitude telepath of the Guardians. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe or follow so you don't miss any of our episodes. We've got some massive character breakdowns I'm looking forward to, including Phyla-Vell, which will be our next episode. Leaving a like or a 5-star review really helps the podcast grow and helps other fans find us. And hey, drop a comment. Who should we cover after that? For more content, including full visual breakdowns of Moondragon's history, make sure you check out the links to our website below. Until next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.